Coming up on Look Today, well, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik toured Hudson Headwaters in Queensbury today, and we were there. Plus, the Saratoga Economic Development Corporation unveiled their EDI Squared initiative at a press conference today. We were there as well. More on that coming up. And BWI Check is going to be set up on Lake George over the 4th of July holiday week. It's all ahead on Look Today. Welcome everyone. Happy Friday. I'm Jay Hood Jackson. This is Look Today. Well, on tonight's program, I sit down with Heather Varney. Now, she's Development Director for Saratoga Bridges, and we're joined by Christy Ann Potts. She's co-chair for an event called the White Party, and they're here to talk about the biggest fundraiser of the year for Saratoga Bridges. It's coming up, by the way, on July 27. I also sit down with Patrick Linsky. He's Race Director, Firecracker 4, which is held the morning of July 4th. And we're joined by Sarah Seiden. She's Executive Director of the Children's Museum at Saratoga. And they're here to talk about the race. And like I said, it's coming up the morning of July 4 right here in downtown Saratoga. Plus, we've got your weather for the Tri-North counties. But first, these headline stories. Well, in our lead story, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik toured Hudson Headwaters in Queensbury today. The woman was shown around the West Mountain Health Services facility. Now, the visit was prompted by Congresswoman Stefanik's lead on the passage of the CHIME Act, which funds federally qualified community health care centers like Hudson Headwaters. Now, by the way, to the tune of $7.8 million nationwide. Well, after the tour, Congresswoman Stefanik was also awarded the 2018 Community Health Champion Award. Well, we were at Hudson Headwaters this morning, and we spoke with the Congresswoman about the importance of community health centers.
The bill that I introduced, the CHIME Act, helped deliver significant funding so that these community health centers can continue to thrive for the next 2 years, and then we will build upon that. But this is really a model that works. It's also a model that works in rural parts of the country and obviously in rural parts of my district. So, I've just loved partnering with Hudson Headwaters. They have an amazing team, and it's a model that I hope continues to grow.
In other news, well, Saratoga Economic Development Corporation unveiled their EDI Squared initiative at a press conference today. Now, the goal of the initiative is to attract more tech companies to the region through the purchase of something called electronic design automation tools. Now, some of these EDA tools, believe it or not, can cost around $3 million. Well, a steep price tag for a small to moderate-sized business. Well, the SEDC, with the help of their partners, will rent out some of these tools to interested tech companies. Very innovative. Now, we spoke to Dennis Brobson. He's president of the SEDC.
What we're trying to do is educate, have a business accelerator for people to learn to use the tools, also the education parts, all that to go for one thing. We want it to be utilized for the piece that's missing in our region. Manufacturing and R&D is here. What we need is the design of the semiconductor.
Now, this initiative, by the way, reflects similar programs that have been built in Hong Kong and the United Kingdom. But this will be the first program like it in the United States. Well, we spoke to Carrie Werner. She's Assemblywoman, New York's 113th District, about this.
I think that what's exciting about EDI Squared is that it's first in the nation, and it really is one of the fundamental building blocks of what we need to really expand the semiconductor manufacturing core that we've started with Global Foundries.
Boy, I don't know. I just got hit with something. How about that for an A block of really solid community news? Switching from news to weather. Well, today was hot and humid. Temperatures in the 80s, and it's only the beginning. Let's see what Clarence has to say. For a more detailed look at our weather, let's head to the Glenswald's Weather Center for a look at your first forecast.
Thank you, Jesse. I'm meteorologist Clarence Foster with your first look weather update on Look TV. Earlier today, beautiful sunny weather across much of the Capital District. Yesterday, we've had showers and storms drifting through much of the mid-south and deep south. Also, another complex of storms formed across eastern Montana, drifting its way through the northern tier, especially into parts of North Dakota and Minnesota. Here, we're experiencing dry weather, even though this model shows a little bit of a low pressure system and a trough, but this high pressure dome will be in play. The big story heading into this weekend will be the heat. Here's the lows for overnight. Not too bad. 63, partly cloudy. We'll have some patchy dense fog late, so take it easy in the early morning hours. Mainly sunny, temperatures rising into the mid-70s by 9 a.m. It will turn high. It will be in the lower 90s by the afternoon hours. Southwest wind at 5 to 10 knots. It gets even hotter. Look at the extended mid to upper 90s Sunday and Monday. Heat indices could be as high in some areas of 105. And then we'll see those pop-up storm chances at 30% coverage just in time for your Independence Day holiday. It will still be hot as a firecracker with temperatures remaining in the mid-90s, lows around 70. So heat advisories and maybe excessive heat watches and warnings will likely need to be issued for our area throughout the weekend and into early next week. That was your forecast update on First Look Weather on Look TV. I'm meteorologist Clarence Foster. Now, send it back to you, Jesse.
Thanks very much, Clarence. Going to be a hot one. Back to the news. Well, Lake George Park Commission is launching Operation Dry Water. It's their BWI checkpoint program. Now, just as it is with driving a car, it's illegal to drink and operate a watercraft. Now, with the July 4th weekend holiday upon us, the Park Commission is cracking down on BWI with checkpoints all over the lake. Well, Operation Dry Water will be taking place all throughout the summer, by the way. Now, we spoke to Joe Johns. He's Director of Law Enforcement for the Lake George Park Commission.
Operation Dry Water is a national campaign that's held each year towards the end of June, beginning of July. It's a 3-day heightened awareness. It's going to be from Friday through Sunday this year. There'll be additional boat patrols out on the water to crack down on boating while intoxicated. The legal level is, you have to be below 0.08 or else you're a BWI, or you can be BWAI below that.
Well, those of you who are boaters will know what I mean when I say in some ways BWIs are even more dangerous than DWIs. You don't have any lanes you're following and whatever. You're out in the open air and it's hot, so you're drinking. Man, be careful out there. All right, up next, I sit down with Heather Varney. She's Director, Development, Saratoga Bridges, and we're joined by Christiana Pottis. She's co-chair for the White Party, and they're here to talk about the biggest fundraiser of the year for Saratoga Bridges, the White Party. It's coming up on Saturday, July 21st. I also sit down with Patrick Linsky. He's race director of the Firecracker 4, and we're joined by Sarah Seiden. She's executive director for the Children's Museum in Saratoga, and they're here to talk to us about the Firecracker race. It's coming up on the morning of July 4, right in downtown Saratoga. But first, if you see news happening, you want to share a story idea. How about join us for an interview? Then give us a call on the hotline. The number is 798-8000. Well, that's all the time we have for this edition of Look Today. I'm going to start with kind of a serious look out. The shooting recently of the local newspaper in Annapolis, sending out a very specific message, I think. You heard me earlier in our own program comment on the scope of the local news that we were covering. Local news organizations don't chase ambulances. You don't have the big world headlines. It's supposed to be about community news. It's supposed to have a good feel to it as well. A lot of us really strive to do that. And of course, we're subject to the criticism that we're not like the big boys like Fox or CNN. It's not a fair comparison, by the way. But nonetheless, and I noted when I was watching the coverage of this that they were saying, oh no, it's got nothing to do with national politics and everything else. It was a particular gripe. Well, it did have to be, it had to do with a particular gripe. But I have a comment to make about this. When you're lied to every day, when the media is enemy of the people, when everything is fake news if you don't agree with it, and it's fine if you slander people, some of us who follow politics can brush it off. Some of us support it, some of us make excuses for it. How about the people who don't follow it and are actually subject to understanding that maybe it makes their behavior acceptable? I really think we have to watch out for that, because you can't lead with fear. You only follow with fear. We've got just a couple of things. Don't forget, Cafe Lena at SPAC this weekend. It's a big weekend and a big week. As a matter of fact, all of us are taking off next week. We need a vacation. So we will not be here next week. We will be checking in and doing meetings and things like that. Just please, everybody, have a wonderful weekend, a safe week, and we'll see you on the other side. That's it. Tonight on Look TV, Warren Watch. And don't forget, tune in sometime for the headlines that matter to you. Good night, everybody.